I think partly it's to double down on the AI opportunities plan to make sure you're anchoring the industry here itself. Secondly, you want to boost the UK's diffusion ecosystem to make sure that businesses can access this technology and know how to adopt it. Thirdly, you want to make sure that the economy is dynamic and able to adjust. If you think of the level of transformation that's coming as a result of AI, then you need to make sure that your labour market, your capital markets, even your land, through planning, is flexible enough to redeploy into these new areas of growth. And then finally, I'd say that's all on the growth side. There is also significant opportunity for the government to adopt AI itself within the public sector to boost public sector efficiency.
The Prime Minister says he is confident we can beat the forecasts after the OBR predicted slower growth from next year. One big reason for that confidence is artificial intelligence, which the OBR says is number one potential upside for the UK economy. But just how much can AI help Britain's economy, and will it come soon enough for Labour? Well, that's massively up for debate. With me now is Thomas Smith, Director of Economic Policy at the Tony Blair Institute. Hello, Thomas. Can AI make it all okay?
Well, I think there's significant upside potential from AI, and we really do need some good news in the UK economy. As you probably know, productivity growth in the UK has dropped from over 2% a year prior to the financial crisis to around 0.5% a year ever since. And that's really material when it comes to living standards. So the pre-crisis rate would double living standards roughly every 30 years. The current rate would take almost 150 years to do the same. So we really do need that productivity growth. And when it comes to AI, and if you look back over the history of productivity growth in the UK and in the world more generally, one of the key drivers of the big boosts to productivity growth have been these general purpose technologies that feed through across the economy, whether that's electricity, the internet, steam engine even, and they boost growth very widely, and that's the sort of potential upside that we can get from AI.
I'm sure you saw earlier this year the MIT report that suggested that the vast majority of companies that have incorporated AI into their businesses haven't really profited from it at all. All they're doing is kind of, at best sort of cutting workforces, but they're not really making any money. Where's the money actually going to come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that MIT report, I think, said sort of 95% of companies that had invested hadn't yet seen a commercial return. That is not unusual when it comes to new technologies. If you've got a business and you're trying to integrate a sort of new general purpose technology, the productivity often follows what's called a J curve, where as you're adapting your business processes to this new technology, often productivity will flatline or take a while to sort of pick up, but then it explodes when you do get those benefits. And that requires sort of rewiring your systems around the new technology. And you saw the same thing when it came to the ICT revolution in the sort of late 20th century. The computer age was there for a couple of decades before you saw it show up in the productivity statistics in the late 90s. So
Fraser Nelson wrote about this recently. He called it prayeronomics. The government sort of hoping AI will rescue growth, which is sort of they're using as an excuse for not really planning for it. That is a danger, isn't it? A bit like people do with like the climate crisis, where they go, "Oh, new technology will solve this one," and it's an excuse to sort of opt out and not worry about it. There is a danger of doing that with AI, is there not?
Well, I think, you can't just rely on it coming on its own, and the government has quite a lot of levers of power to influence the sort of uptake of AI across the economy. I think if you look at the US at the moment, a large chunk of US growth has actually been driven by the AI economy already, sort of big investment in these massive data centers. That's accounted for about half of US growth in the first half of this year, so it's significant. In the UK, the government, to its credit, is doing something similar, or trying to, with its AI opportunities plan. So one example of that is these new AI growth zones that are being created to sort of streamline planning and encourage that build out. So that's encouraging. But I think if you really want this technology to sort of boost growth, materially, you need it to diffuse across the economy. And the UK, in some ways is quite well set up to adopt this technology. We have a lot of service sector workers who can readily use it. There's a lot of existing digital technology, the broadband access, cloud infrastructure that makes it relatively easy to adopt. But still, businesses struggle with technology adoption. It's kind of a risky bet some of the time, and it takes quite a lot of effort to integrate it into your systems, as I was talking about earlier. And I think, unlike some other countries, the UK does not have a particularly good technology diffusion ecosystem. So we think there's a bit more potential for the government to sort of step in and help there by particularly using one of the UK's greatest strengths, its universities, as kind of these hubs of diffusion to work with businesses to show them how to sort of integrate this technology. So there's more that could be done.
I guess there's two kinds of AI-led growth, though. There's the sort we've seen in America, where the huge growth they've seen because of AI is literally the growth of AI. It's people investing in AI, as you say. It's people building data centers. It's people investing hugely in AI companies. That seems to be quite different from AI unlocking the potential for growth everywhere else. Surely we want something more than just a huge AI industry. We want companies using AI in order to grow, in order to be more productive, in order to be more profitable. How would that work? What's this going to involve companies doing?
Yeah, that's quite right. So you've got the investment, the investment infrastructure boom, which is sort of the direct effect of AI, the investment you need to make it happen in the first place. But that's, the innovation economy, which is a small but significant part of growth. But as you say, in order for this to have a material long-term impact on the economy, you need it to be adopted across what's sometimes called the everyday economy. And I mean, in terms of how it could play out, so the history of these sort of technologies is it can save workers' time. So there's been some quite good studies over the last couple of years that look at how different kinds of AI can save different workers' time. And so, in the coding profession, for example, which is perhaps most set up for gaining from this stuff, it could save around a half of average coders' time on certain tasks. And then for management consultants, there's another study that says it could save up to a quarter of their time. Even for teachers, sort of 4 to 8% of their time. And so if you can save time on sort of regular tasks that you're already doing, that frees up more time to do more productive work elsewhere. And it's a sort of more efficient use of your inputs. And so that's where the kind of productivity boost comes from.
Finally then, Thomas, and briefly, what do we hope to see then from the government if this is all to be true, if there is to be this AI-led growth? What does the government need to do now?
Well, I think partly it's to double down on the AI opportunities plan to make sure you're anchoring the industry here itself. Secondly, you want to boost the UK's diffusion ecosystem to make sure that businesses can access this technology and know how to adopt it. Thirdly, you want to make sure that the economy is dynamic and able to adjust. If you think of the level of transformation that's coming as a result of AI, then you need to make sure that your labour market, your capital markets, even your land, through planning, is flexible enough to redeploy into these new areas of growth. And then finally, I'd say that's all on the growth side. There is also significant opportunity for the government to adopt AI itself within the public sector to boost public sector efficiency. So if you do that, you can cut the costs of public services whilst improving their outcomes. And that is a sort of significant gain for the government, which is well within their control too.
Thomas Smith, Director of Economic Policy at the Tony Blair Institute, thank you very much indeed.